Hey, I'm Katie Wawa, and you're watching The Record Review. Hi, today on The Record Review I'm going to be reviewing the latest release from Bombay Bicycle Club, So Long, See You Tomorrow. I'm a really big fan of these guys, and basically listening to them pretty much got me through my university career. They're really great tracks, they're good for like hyping you up, or they're good if you're having a bad mood. And whenever Bombay Bicycle Club are doing a tour, I'm always first online to get the New York dates. I'm actually seeing them this year in about a month on May 8th at Webster Hall. They're also currently on an international tour right now, so if you like this album today and you would like to see them live, then definitely go online. I'll put the link below. A lot of the dates are sold out, but you might still be able to get tickets to see them in your local area. So when you buy the actual album, you not only get the lovely album, but you get the artwork. And this artwork is inspired by a guy called, okay, I can't really say his name because it's really weird spelling, but I think it's Edward Muybridge. And he was sort of an early experimental photographer. He's very famous for that one of the horses running and all the different stages of the horse running. So that is all these different stages of people. And then on the inside you've got all these different stages of the same man and woman, and they're all together. Also with the vinyl album you get one of these lovely MP3 download codes to put on your iPod or your MP3 device, or just to play on your computer if you want to, and then you also have the album anyway. So that's nice. Now we're going to get down to the actual review. So I wanted to talk a little bit about my experience with the album, because it was a bit of a curve. When I first saw the video for their single Carry Me, I was really excited. It's this really cool video because while it's playing you can click it and it changes to different views and angles and stuff, and so you kind of feel like you're interacting with the music. And I really loved the song, and then I listened to Luna and that was really great as well. And then I got the album and I was really excited, and I came home and I sat down and I played it and I just listened to it, and I was a bit disappointed because it's very chilled out and it's not as sort of high energy as I'm used to from Bombay Bicycle Club. And so I was a bit sad because I was a bit worried that maybe it wasn't going to be as good. And then when I sat down to listen to the album again to review it, I suddenly, I liked it. Like, it had grown on me and I was more used to the sort of more confident perspective that the guys are using in this new album. So I think maybe one of the reasons why I was a bit uncertain about it to begin with is because, to me, Bombay Bicycle Club are a band that have really grown up through their music. Their first 3 albums were really experimenting with a lot of different styles. So their first album, I Had the Blues But I Shook Them Loose, is more like very electric guitar heavy and very angsty. I think they were about 16 or like 17 or 18 when they were working on that album, so there's a lot of that teenage angst. And then their second album, Floors, is all acoustic guitar and it's very folky and it's different style, it's still them. Then their third album, A Different Kind of Fix, was more electro-poppy, and that one was really popular. So I think I've been so used to seeing them sort of growing up and experimenting with different things in each album that to finally hear an album where it sounds like they've settled and they feel confident in their own distinctive sound was a bit unsettling for me. But then I realized that it's amazing. Like, it's really cool that they finally found the style that they want to do. It's not just that they're going to specifically stick with this style, but also that they feel confident enough in themselves that they can just, like, the album is just brimming with confidence. You just feel like they're saying, yeah, this is us, this is our style, this is what we do. I also have a bit of a sneaky suspicion that one of the reasons that they feel a lot more confident with this album is because one of the tracks from A Different Kind of Fix was used on the Twilight Eclipse soundtrack. and that was How Can You Swallow So Much Sleep? And I think that when your song makes it onto the Twilight soundtrack, you know that you've gone mainstream and that people like you. So speaking of soundtracks, I was trying to think of a way to describe this album, and I think a really great way is that it sounds like it's going to be on the soundtrack for every indie movie that's going to come up in like the next 3 years, because it kind of has that indie romance, indie coming of age, road trip feel to it. Bombay Bicycle Club's music has always been very, it's almost like a trance that it leads you to. Even though it's not trance dance music, it's very repetitive of certain riffs, and you hear the same sounds coming over and overlapping each other, and you just get into a really nice state when you're listening to it. Get into a really nice state, I don't know. I find that listening to their music just really relaxes me, but it can also like build you up. It's just very well constructed music. So they have this really romantic style, and it's not even necessarily like romantic towards love, but like that sort of romantic poet style where a lot of their songs aren't really stories, they're sort of describing a specific feeling or a moment. I was comparing them in my head a bit to the Lana Del Rey album. Lana Del Rey tells so many stories in her music, and Bombay Bicycle Club don't really tell narratives. They use their music to sort of convey these abstract ideas and feelings that maybe you can't really explain through words, but they're trying to through music. So far they've released videos for 3 of the tracks from this album. They've got, as I mentioned before, the Carry Me video, which is interactive, and also they have Luna, which is a really cool short film of these synchronized swimmers. And then they've also just released a video for Feel. I can feel it now that you've gone, which is set at an Indian wedding. It's interesting because they've also got a lot of Indian music samples within the album. So Feel samples some Indian music, and then it's also in Overdone, which is the opening track for the album. So I think that's where Bombay Bicycle Club are doing a bit more experimentation in their style of music for this album, but it's not overpowering, and it doesn't feel like appropriation. It feels more like they're just appreciating that style of music. It's a bit of a George Harrison more than a Selena Gomez. I think my favorite track from the album though is Whenever Wherever, which is the end track of the A-side. I think it's a track that will probably never be released as a single, but it's just a really beautiful kind of it repeats the same words like whenever, wherever over and over, and it just feels very, very calming, I guess. I kind of get the feeling that Jack Stedman wrote that track more for the people who will buy the album and his actual fans than like to try and do a big mass appeal. This album has been doing pretty well though, in the UK at least, and I think in the US it's not been as successful yet, but I think it might be a bit more of a grower here as well, especially if it ends up featuring on a lot of indie soundtracks, as I believe it will. One of the things that I think is quite cool about this album is that although So Long See You Tomorrow is a different, more confident style than Bombay Bicycle Club's previous albums, it still is so recognizably Bombay Bicycle Club. And that, I think, is because Jack Stedman has such distinctive vocals. I would even say that he's up there with like Morrissey and Bowie as being that distinctive. They have like this lovely ethereal, almost androgynous style to them. And Jack Stedman does a really cool thing. I'm not sure if many other singers do this, but he leaves in all of the breaths that he takes. So when you sing, you sort of learn that you have to take these very short like breaths between lines so that you can carry through that full breath, that full line. So most artists will kind of take those breaths out of the mix, of the final mix, and Jack Stedman doesn't. Now he produces all his albums. He's the one who's sitting in the studio doing all the mixes as well. And he leaves, it has to be deliberate, right? Like you wouldn't leave those in on accident on every single song. But he leaves in his little breaths and like lets you hear them. And it's such a subtle thing and you don't really notice it until you start to think about it. But by doing that, he sort of injects this feeling of passionate intensity into every song. Like he's just desperate to get it out there, and you can hear all of his breaths as he's sort of desperately trying to tell you what he's feeling. And it's really, really cool, and I don't think anyone else does it. I would like to know if anyone else does it. But it's something that makes Bombay Bicycle Club very, very distinctive, as a band and Jack Stedman as an artist. So in case you hadn't noticed, I really love this album, so it's definitely going to get 5 stars. But obviously it's not just the stars that count on the record review, it's should you buy it on vinyl. This is another album where you do get the really high quality downloads as well as the vinyl, so you can use both and, you know, you buy one get one free. It's also like a nice thing for fans because of the artwork, but it's one of those albums where you can tell like so much digital production has gone into it that it sounds pretty much the same on vinyl as it does in the download, and that's not a bad thing, but it is one of those things that makes getting the vinyl not essential. I will admit though that I have listened to it more via the MP3s than on the actual vinyl. So that's it for this week. Next week I'll be doing something a bit different. I'll be doing a bit of a throwback and reviewing American Beauty by the Grateful Dead. So if you haven't made up your mind on that in the past few decades, tune in and see what I actually have to say about it, and there'll be like some interesting cultural references in that one as well. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel. I do other stuff like vlogs as well. I really appreciate every view and every comment, and I think it helps me to get a bit better. Goodbye! Have a good week! Bye!